What if the woman you trust most isn't who she seems? What if her loyalty, her affection, even her respect is just a performance when you're around? Too many men confuse words for truth and attention for love, and the cost is brutal. Wasted time, broken trust, and years you can't get back. The harsh reality is that character doesn't reveal itself in romantic gestures or sweet words. It reveals itself when no one's watching and when she doesn't need you anymore. And here's the secret. There are only two silent tests that cut through all the noise. Two hidden signals that expose who she really is beneath the surface. Once you learn them, you'll never mistake convenience for commitment again. Let's break down those two tests before you risk giving your heart to the wrong woman. As a psychologist and relationship coach, I've worked with countless men who gave years of their lives to women who looked perfect on the surface. But the truth came out when they least expected it. Don't let that be your story. Subscribe, like this video, and share your own experience in the comments. Have you ever trusted someone only to discover later it was just a performance? Because what I'm about to reveal will help you see past the act and recognize the real markers of character. Men don't get destroyed by obvious betrayal. They get softened by comfort. You've been trained to read love by the easy metrics: sweet words, affectionate gestures, and how smooth everything feels when life isn't throwing punches. That's why smart men still miss the truth. You're measuring the weather, not the climate. You're grading performance in ideal conditions and assuming that equals character. It doesn't. Here's the psychological trap. In comfort, anyone can perform. Attention is cheap when there's no friction. Affection is abundant when there's no cost. Even accountability looks noble when nothing is at stake. Those signals seduce you because they confirm what you want to believe. She's warm, we vibe, we're good. But warmth and vibe are states, not standards. And states lie. Impression management turns a lot of adults into part-time actors. We all curate. We all polish. She might not even be malicious. She's human. When there's an audience, we all tighten up our behavior. When the audience leaves, our defaults return. That's why the real read is never what she does when the moment is lovely. It's what she repeats when the moment is neutral. Comfort hides, but silence reveals. If you keep evaluating her by compliments, cuddles, and curated weekends, you'll overvalue chemistry and undervalue character. Chemistry tells you how good the time is. Character tells you how safe the future is. The men who get blindsided confuse relief with reliability. Relief feels like, finally, someone who gets me. Reliability sounds boring in comparison. Patterns, principles, consistency. But that's what carries you when life tilts. So what should you actually look at? Not debates, not dramatic tests, not trap questions. Look for behavior in the spaces with no scoreboard, no likes, no eyes, no immediate prize. When there's nothing to gain and no one to impress, people default to who they are. That's why I'm going to give you two silent tests in a moment. Two places where her real baseline shows through without a speech, a selfie, or a performance. Before we go there, I need you to drop two habits that sabotage you. First, stop treating suspicion and discernment like the same thing. Suspicion is fear, looking for evidence. Discernment is wisdom, collecting data. You're not a detective, you're a witness. Second, stop arguing with words and start auditing patterns. Words are forecasts. Patterns are weather records. If her record contradicts her forecast, believe the record. Here's a reframe that will save you years. Character isn't a promise. It's a pattern under two conditions: no audience and no incentive. If she stays aligned when the spotlight is off and stays respectful when you're no longer a resource, you're not guessing anymore. You're seeing. I can already hear the pushback. Isn't this cold? Isn't love about trust? Yes, trust that has been earned by consistent evidence. I'm not asking you to police her. I'm asking you to protect you. You've paid for too many illusions with your piece. You don't need to test a good woman with games. You simply need to notice what's already true when no one is clapping and when nothing is owed. So the plan is simple. We'll anchor your attention on 2 quiet checkpoints and let reality do the talking. No drama, no traps, just clear lenses. If she's the real thing, these moments will confirm it and deepen your respect. If she isn't, they'll surface the mismatch early, before you invest the parts of your life you can't get back. Now let's move from theory to practice. The first silent test is where most men never look. How she handles freedom when no one is watching. That's where loyalty stops being an outfit and starts, or stops, being a code. When men hear the word freedom, most think it's a gift. But in relationships, freedom is the stage where masks fall. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some women confuse freedom with permission. They treat unmonitored moments like an open bar for attention. The problem isn't that she has space. The problem is what she does with it. See, loyalty isn't a necklace she wears to dinner or a caption she posts under your picture. Loyalty is either stitched into her character or stapled onto her image, and the difference shows when no one is watching. Out in public, it's easy to look committed, smiling, affectionate, maybe even bragging about you to her friends. That's performance. But when the door closes, does she still live by the same standard? Or does she crack the window just wide enough for validation to slip in from another man? Let me give you a story, because abstract ideas don't hit as hard as lived moments. James is 43, divorced, finally dipping back into dating after years on his own. Through mutual friends, he meets a woman who checks all the boxes on paper. Charming, affectionate, and vocal about how much she values him. In public, she beams when he's around. She holds his arm, laughs at his jokes, makes him feel like he's the center of her world. But James is observant. He notices subtle shifts whenever she's out with her girlfriends or traveling alone for work. Her phone gets tucked away faster. Conversations end abruptly if he walks into the room. Harmless? Maybe. But one night he sees a notification flash, just enough to read a line of a message from another man. Nothing explicit, nothing incriminating, just enough to make him question why it was hidden. When he casually asks about her weekend, she dodges, changes topics, and paints the picture of a perfect night out. That's when James realizes something critical. Her loyalty glows in the spotlight but flickers in the dark. Around him, she's polished. Away from him, there are cracks. She isn't betraying him outright, but she's entertaining little doors she wouldn't want him to see. And that's the point. True loyalty doesn't depend on whether you'll find out. It depends on whether she values the bond as sacred, even when it would be easy to bend the rules. Now let's zoom out. James's situation isn't rare. Most men never check the difference between public loyalty and private loyalty because they're too busy enjoying the show. They take the outfit at face value and never ask if there's a code beneath it. But here's the raw test. Does she act the same when the world isn't clapping? If she only performs loyalty when it benefits her image, that's not loyalty, it's branding. This doesn't mean you stalk, spy, or grill her with suspicion. That's insecurity, not wisdom. What it does mean is paying attention to her baseline. How does she handle freedom? Does she treat commitment as a cage she can escape when unsupervised, or as a principle she honors regardless of audience? One answer gives you stability, the other gives you chaos delayed. Men, you need to understand. Freedom doesn't create betrayal. It only exposes it. If betrayal is in her, freedom is the stage where it walks out. If integrity is in her, freedom becomes proof. It's that simple. Don't complicate it. Here's the positive takeaway. The kind of woman worth building with doesn't see commitment as chains. She sees it as alignment with her own values. Whether you're in the room or 1,000 miles away, her behavior matches her words. You don't have to second guess. You don't have to chase reassurance. Her consistency is the reassurance. James walked away, not in anger but in clarity. And that clarity saved him from years of confusion. You owe yourself the same standard. Observe her freedom, not with paranoia, but with open eyes. Because if she protects what's sacred when no one's watching, you've got something rare. If not, you've got a warning. Let's push deeper into the first test, because spotting freedom isn't just about catching slips. It's about understanding the difference between an outfit and a code. I call it loyalty on the outside versus loyalty on the inside. And if you don't learn to distinguish the two, you'll confuse performance for principle. Here's what I mean. Loyalty as an outfit is presentation. She puts it on when it's convenient, when friends are watching, when family is around, when you're close enough to notice. She shows the right moves, affectionate words, loyal signals, maybe even public declarations. It looks good, it feels good, but it's conditional. The moment there's no audience, the outfit comes off. Her behavior shifts because the purpose of the loyalty was never about you, it was about how she appeared. Now, loyalty as a code is different. A code is internal, it's not about performance, it's about principle. She doesn't wear loyalty, she lives it. She doesn't need someone clapping to keep her consistent. Her integrity isn't determined by circumstances, it's anchored in values. And that's what makes her rare. Because most people, men and women, don't operate from a code. They operate from context. They adjust their behavior to the room instead of holding the room to their standard. Think of it like this. An outfit comes off when the crowd leaves. A code stays on even in the dark. And that's why it matters for you. A man who trusts the outfit will always be surprised later. A man who waits for the code will be secure. Psychology has a name for this: impression management. It's the tendency to present the best version of ourselves when we know eyes are on us. That's not evil. It's human. But the problem is when impression management replaces authenticity. If her loyalty is an act designed to impress, it will always fade in private. If it's rooted in her values, it won't matter whether she's praised or unseen. She'll treat the bond as sacred because she is sacred, not because someone is grading her. So how do you, as a man, test this without falling into paranoia? You don't have to interrogate. You don't have to stalk. You simply observe consistency. Does she shift depending on who's watching? Does her tone change in front of friends versus when you're alone? Are her boundaries stable, whether you're in the room or not? Over time, consistency tells you everything words can't. Here's the kicker. A woman who lives by a code doesn't fear being caught. She's not performing. She's aligned. And when you find that kind of alignment, you stop wondering. You stop overanalyzing texts, scrolling for clues, or seeking reassurance. Her life reassures you. That's the kind of peace men rarely talk about, but deeply crave. Don't settle for the outfit. Outfits fade. Outfits can be borrowed. Outfits can be styled to impress. A code is permanent. A code is chosen. A code is proven by repetition, not by applause. And that's why I'll leave you with this line. Integrity is what you do when the door is closed. If she's solid there, she'll be solid anywhere. If she's not, no amount of public loyalty will protect you. There's a second silent test that most men completely overlook. It doesn't show up when you're her provider, her rock, her emotional anchor. It shows up the moment she realizes she doesn't need you anymore. That's when the mask either stays on because it's who she is, or it falls off because the role has been fulfilled. Here's why this test matters. Some women's kindness is tied to benefit. Their patience, their affection, even their respect is fueled by what they're receiving. As long as you're helping her, supporting her, filling gaps in her life, she treats you with warmth. But once she finds her footing, once she's stable financially, emotionally, or socially, the temperature changes. You're no longer essential. And how she handles that transition tells you everything. Let me show you with a story. Michael is 51. After years of being single, he starts dating a woman who, at first, seems deeply appreciative. She leans on him emotionally, calls him after work to decompress, looks to him for reassurance. She also benefits from his stability. He covers dinners, helps her navigate tough decisions, and becomes a steady presence in her life. Michael feels valued, maybe even needed, and that feels good. For a man his age, stepping back into dating, being needed feels like proof of purpose. But then things shift. As months go by, she lands a new job, reconnects with her social circle, and builds a stronger financial base. With her independence growing, Michael notices something. Her tone changes. She cancels plans more often. Conversations feel rushed. When he expresses a need or boundary, she sighs, acts inconvenienced, or even gets irritated. The same man who once felt like her anchor now feels like background noise. Michael doesn't explode. He pays attention. He realizes her respect was tied to her need. When she needed him, she was kind. When she didn't, she was careless. That realization hit harder than any breakup line because it showed him the truth. Her affection was conditional. It wasn't love, it was convenience. This is where most men struggle. They hold on, hoping the warmth returns, bargaining with themselves. Maybe she's just stressed, maybe I'm overthinking. But denial doesn't change patterns. What Michael learned, painfully but clearly, is that the way a woman treats you when she no longer needs you is the sharpest mirror of her soul. It strips away incentives, reveals priorities, and shows you whether she valued you or simply the role you played. Now, don't mistake this test as doom. There are women who pass it beautifully. They don't rewrite history just because their circumstances change. They don't turn cold because they've outgrown dependence. Instead, they stay consistent. They may not need you, but they still respect you. They still acknowledge what you've built together. They treat your presence as a choice, not as a burden. That's grace. That's character. And when you meet a woman like that, you've found someone who loves from value, not from necessity. So here's the warning and the wisdom. Watch the transition. Notice how she acts when the dependency is gone. If she discards kindness once she doesn't need your resources, you've just seen her truest form. If she maintains respect even in independence, you've just seen something rare. Don't confuse temporary gratitude with permanent character. Gratitude fades. Character doesn't. Men, you need to ask yourself, are you with someone who values your essence or your utility? The answer is in the silence after her needs are met. You don't have to test it artificially. Life will do it for you. Just be wise enough to notice when it happens. I'll leave you with this line. The way she treats you when you're no longer necessary. That's the sharpest mirror of her soul. Look into it, because that reflection tells you more about your future than any sweet word or romantic gesture ever could. Let's tie everything together. After watching how she handles freedom and how she treats you when she no longer needs you, there's a final layer of clarity, the difference between love and convenience. This is where most men get burned, not because they didn't see the signs, but because they misread them. Love, at its core, doesn't change when the benefits change. If a woman respects you, she respects you whether you're paying the bill or not. If she honors you whether you're the safety net or simply her partner. Love sustains itself when external incentives fade. It doesn't weaken when the perks disappear. That's what makes it love. Convenience, on the other hand, is transactional. It thrives when you're useful. It thrives when you're filling roles, provider, therapist, rescuer. But once those roles are no longer required, convenience dries up. The woman who loved you for convenience doesn't mistreat you out of cruelty. She simply has no use for the dynamic anymore. And that's what hurts most men, realizing they weren't loved for who they are, but for the benefits attached. Here's the good news. You can spot this difference without running experiments or playing games. Life naturally gives you tests. All you have to do is pay attention. When there's nothing to gain, does she still show respect? When you're not in a position to solve her problem, does she still treat you with warmth? When the spotlight isn't on, does her attitude toward you remain consistent? Those are the checkpoints. You don't need drama. You don't need suspicion. You just need observation. This is where discernment separates men who suffer endlessly from men who protect their peace. You don't have to panic when you see affection fade under convenience. You don't have to beg for love that was never real. You simply have to tell the truth. This wasn't love. It was a transaction. And then you step away with clarity, not confusion. Let me make this practical. Stop rewarding surface-level loyalty. Stop mistaking kindness in public for commitment in private. Stop assuming gratitude equals devotion. Gratitude is temporary. Values are permanent. If you want lasting respect, you need to align with someone who lives by values, not someone who chases benefits. Here's the punchline I want you to burn into your memory. Benefits can buy affection, but only values sustain respect. And respect is the oxygen of a relationship. Without it, the bond suffocates, no matter how much chemistry or history you share. So the real question isn't, does she love me now? The real question is, will she still honor me when there's nothing to gain? If the answer is yes, you've found a woman whose character is deeper than circumstance. If the answer is no, you've just saved yourself years of wasted time. Either way, you win, because clarity is a victory. When you strip away the noise, the selfies, the words, and the weekend highs, it all comes down to two silent tests. How she handles freedom when no one is watching, and how she treats you when she doesn't need you anymore. Those are the moments that reveal her true character, not the curated ones, not the rehearsed ones. Because think about it, anyone can act loyal when eyes are on them. Anyone can play affectionate when they're leaning on you. But real loyalty shows when there's no reward, no spotlight, no incentive. That's when you discover if you've been loved or leveraged, valued or used. This isn't about living in suspicion. It's about living with wisdom. Suspicion makes you paranoid. Wisdom makes you prepared. The difference is subtle but life-saving. A suspicious man chases shadows. A wise man simply observes patterns and adjusts his investment accordingly. And that's what you owe yourself. Investment in clarity, not in illusion. If you're with a woman who passes both tests, treat that as the rare gift it is. A woman who guards the bond even in silence, who honors you even in independence, that's not common. That's gold. Don't take it for granted. Because in a world of temporary performances, finding consistency is the prize. And if she fails these tests, don't waste your life negotiating with red flags. Don't plead with someone's character to change. Clarity is painful, but it's merciful. It frees you to stop paying for loyalty that was only staged and start building with someone who lives by values. Men, your peace depends on who you allow close. Protect it like your future depends on it, because it does. If this gave you clarity, don't keep it to yourself. Hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and drop a comment about what resonated most. Awareness is your shield. Wisdom is your weapon. Use both, and you'll never look at love the same way again.